So here's something interesting I noticed with regard to completion of a course that's been built in SAP Enable Now, or specifically been built using books and book pages. And this applies regardless of whether this course is played back in the trainer, directly from Manager, or it's been SCORMed and loaded into an LMS. So I had this simple course that I built out for a client. And I can't show you the actual course here because it's client-sensitive material, but this is the basic structure of it. I've just put it into Excel because I wanted to do some calculations on it. So the course itself was a book, and within that I've got four small sections within that course, which are also using books to structure them. Now, I like to use books because you can launch those independently in the Learner view or other ways. You can also do it using, for example, text units or groups will work either way. But here I'm using books, and I think this is better because it kind of illustrates how things are working here. So this course has got one main book, and then it's got effectively four sub-books, and all of these have slides or book pages within them. So I've got 16 slides or 16 book pages within this particular course. And the way it's structured is four of these slides, in fact, belong to this book called Dirk's Course. And then each section book has a different number of slides in it. This has 3 slides, this has 3, this has 4, this has 2. And the main one again has 4. And what I found was, when I went and looked at the progress, I saw odd percentages of completion for the course. Anyone who went through the whole 16 slides, it showed them as 100% complete. But the others that didn't get through the whole course, they got through, I don't know, half a dozen slides or 2/3 of the way through it and then cancelled out of it. The percentage that I saw being reported for that wasn't a multiple of a 16th of 100%, which is what I'd expect if there were 16 slides and they'd consumed half of those, so they got through 8 slides, I'd expect it to show that they were 50% of the way through the course. If they got through 4 slides or 4 book pages, that's all they're displayed, I'd expect it to show 25% complete. But that's not what was happening. So I dug into it to try and find out why. Now, the first thing I did was I SCORMed this out, dropped it into SCORM Cloud with debugging on, and watched what percentage was being reported. And what I saw was this. The progress as they go through these slides, obviously a book itself doesn't show any change in progress because the book's just a container. But for the slides, the progress was showing as 5% or 0.05 for slide 1. Then when they went to the next slide, it was 0.1, then 0.5. So they're getting a 5% credit for each one of these. And 5% is an odd thing when there's 16 slides in it anyway. And then it went from 15 to 22, and then 28%, 35%, and all the way through here. There's nowhere where it says they got through 50%, which is odd, which I'd expect after slide 8. I'd expect this to be 50, but it's only 0.48, 48%. So why? So the next thing I did was I went through and looked at what the delta percentage the user was being credited with at each slide. So you can see here for slide 1, they obviously got 5%. Slide 2, where it showed 10% overall, they were getting another 5% for looking at that slide. 5% for looking at slide 3, but then 7%, 0.07 for looking at slide 4, 0.6 for looking at slide 5, back to 0.7 for slide 6, and so on. And then when they get down to here, slide 14, they're getting a full 10% credit for looking at slide 14, even though it's 1/16th of the course and not 1/10th of the course. Same with slide 15. And then for slide 16, it magically drops down to 0.05 again, so 5%. So why is this happening? So I looked through this and figured out that if I looked at the number of pages in a book, in this first Dirk's Course book, I have 4 slides in this. So that gives me 4 slides in there. This book has 3 slides. This book has 3 slides. This book has 4 slides. And this book has 2 slides. And if we then look at the total progress you get for completing all of the slides in that book, which is basically all of these added up. So in this case, it's 5% plus 5% plus 5% plus this last one, which is my closing slide, of another 5%. So the credit you get here in total is 0.20, 20%. And it's the same here. 0.7% plus 6% plus 7% is magically 20%, or 0.20 again. And that's the same for this one, 0.2. And this one, where I've got 4 slides in it, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5 again, that's going to give us 0.2. And you can see the pattern here. When we get to this one that's got only 2 slides in it, I've got 10% plus 10%, which again magically gives us 0.2. So at this point, once I've figured this out, the pattern is easy to see. What it does, what SAP Enable Now seems to do, is it will look how many books you have in this SCO, this SCORM content object. And I have 5 books. So it's got this book here for the main course, and then section 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got 5 books. So it basically says, okay, for each of these books, regardless of how much is in them, I'm going to give you 20% credit of, progress through the course. For each of those 5 books within it, I'm going to give you 20%. And then within each book, it says you get 20% in total for here, but I'm going to divide that by the number of slides we've got. So you get 20% for completing the book for section 1, but it's got 3 slides in it. So each of those 3 slides, you're effectively getting 0.66. And it's doing some rounding here, which is why you've got 0.7, 0.6, 0.7, because of the rounding, because it's an odd number. If we look at section 3 that's got 4 in it, it says, okay, in total you get 20% for completing this course, but because there's 4 slides within it, for each slide within that book, you're going to get a 5% credit. And then this last one here again, we get 20% credit for the whole book when we complete that, but there's 2 slides within it, so for each of those slides you get a 10% credit. So that's how it's working out the percentage complete that you see in the learner view, or you're going to see in the LMS when it's been loaded into there. The 100% divided by the number of books is what you get per book. And then for each book, that book percentage complete divided by the number of book pages within that book. Which all seems very unfair, because if you've got a course that has 2 books in it, one book has 3 slides and one book has 100 slides, if you complete only the first book, you're going to get 50% completion marked for you. And if you complete the second book only, you'll also get 50%, even though you've actually completed 90% of the actual book pages in it. So if you're ever wondering where these percentages come from and why they don't seem to make sense, this is why. I hope you find that useful. Thanks for watching.